Thanks to the Supreme Court, the pressure is on for Democrats in Congress trying to pass a voting rights bill. Yesterday, the Supreme Court upheld 2 Arizona voting laws. Voting rights advocates saying that challenging new Republican election laws just got harder. NBC News national political reporter Sahil Kapoor is in Washington, D.C. Sahil, let's talk about the fresh pressure this Supreme Court ruling on Arizona puts on Congress, particularly Senator Kirsten Sinema, who's from Arizona.
That's right, Allison. Senator Sinema is in many ways at the center of this because this ruling applies to 2 restrictive laws in her state of Arizona that the Supreme Court has just upheld. And we reached out to Senator Sinema's office, and she sent us back a statement saying that this ruling is bad and that it hurts Arizonans' ability to access the ballot box. She made clear that she supports federal protections for access to voting, including passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which would restore a portion of the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court gutted all the way back in 2013 and require states with a history of discrimination to get federal pre-approval in order to change their voting laws. Now, Sinema's critics in the Democratic Party, and she has many of them these days, were not satisfied with that because the reality is that piece of legislation, along with other federal voting rights bills, do not have a path in the Senate as long as the 60-vote threshold remains. And she is a proponent, a strong proponent, of preserving that 60-vote threshold, Allison.
Sahil, the court's ruling weakens what's left of the Voting Rights Act, but you say that there is a key nuance to this week's Supreme Court ruling. What is that?
That is correct. There is a key nuance to this because the Supreme Court did not explicitly overturn or curtail Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. It left it there. But the author of this majority opinion on behalf of the 6 conservative justices said that the court will establish guideposts. That's his word for its applicability. In other words, for the ability of the Justice Department to challenge state laws on the basis of discrimination. Specifically, Alito wrote in that majority of opinion that states can assert the need to combat election fraud as an entirely legitimate interest as the basis for enacting laws. Now, this is important because many Republican-led states cite the need to combat voter fraud and election fraud as the basis for restrictive laws, but they aren't really able to prove it because the prevalence of voter fraud is so rare around the country. So voting rights activists and lawyers are concerned that this ruling could limit the ability for the Justice Department to challenge those laws just as long as the state asserts that interest without necessarily even having to prove it, Allison.
All right, Sahil, let's look into the future a little bit. I know you spoke with Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, who chairs the Democrats' campaign arm. What did he tell you about how these new laws in Arizona, in Georgia, could affect the 2022 midterms?
Congressman Maloney was not making predictions here. He still maintains that Democrats are fighting to maintain control of the House of Representatives. But he did say he is concerned with any attempt to restrict access to voting. And he emphasized that the solution to this is to pass federal voting rights protections in the form of the For the People Act, which has passed the House but was filibustered in the Senate, and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act that we just talked about, which is expected to come up in the House this fall. The reality, again, Allison, is that Democrats do not have a path to getting either of these bills through Congress as long as the filibuster remains. And I suspect we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming weeks and months.
I suspect we will, too. Sahil, thanks so much.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.